So Golden Doves class, what is it, 234, we're on page 141. Man, at the top of the page, man is not only bearing, I'm sorry, let me try that again. Actually, let me move this back a little. I think you got a slightly better view like this. Okay, good. Man is not the only being bearing the stamp of the Lord. As we said, Tselem Elohim. So the Tselem Elohim, we brought Philo, who likened it to the seal of the Lord, or almost like God. So like you have a king who puts a seal on the coin, and the coin is now that it has the seal of the king on it, we know we can rely on the coin, right? We know we can trust the coin. It becomes fungible, so to speak. So we said the neshama has a Tselem Elohim, which is the seal of God upon the neshama. Man is not the only being bearing the stamp of the Lord. The entire universe bears the seal of God. That's very interesting. The whole creation, this entire world, perceived by our senses, is a copy of the divine image. That's interesting. So the whole world, the cosmos, is a copy of the divine image. So externally, Tselem Elohim is on the universe. It is manifest that the archetypal seal also would be the very word of God. So this is from Rabbi Eliyahu ben Amozeg. Rabbi Eliyahu ben Amozeg in, on the creation. No, that would be... No, so that was actually, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. That wasn't Rabbi Eliyahu ben Amozeg. That was Philo. Okay. Now, we're going to be reading the words of Rabbi Eliyahu ben Amozeg. Ben Amozeg has shown that coinage and stamp is a basic Jewish metaphor describing creation and its relation to God. And this is Rabbi Eliyahu ben Amozeg. But you know what? Before we read the words of Rabbi Eliyahu ben Amozeg, I want to read footnote 18 on page 200. Philo describes the archetypal seal as follows. He wrought its archetypal seal, and he also stamped with this an impression which was its closest counterpart. The archetypal seal is an incorporeal idea. Right, it's not physical. But the copy which is made by the impression is something else, a material something. Isn't that interesting? So the Tselem itself is not physical, but it's imprinted on something physical. Naturally perceptible by the senses, yet not actually coming into relation with them. That's really fascinating. I think the question is like where the neshama is, right? So where is the neshama? Is it in the body? It's like it is, but like what is it physical? Like if the neshama is in the body, so right, it's almost like on the edge of some other, for lack of a better word, some other dimension of existence. Continuing in the footnote, for the semiological sense of the word implicit in this view, see above page 24. Remarkably, the rabbis conceived of circumcision as a sign in the sense of the credentials of God. Interesting. So it's an ot. So it's an ot that you imprint on the physical body. But that ot which you imprint on the physical body, the circumcision, is a place somehow of there's something other than physical upon that. Similarly, Philo on the life of Moses describes the laws of Moses as stamped, as it were, by the seals of nature herself. Okay, interesting idea. We're now going back to the main text. Ben Amozeg has shown that coinage and stamp is a very basic Jewish metaphor describing creation and its relation to God. The discerning reader, and this is from Ben Amozeg, Em Lamikra, in the book of Devarim. The discerning reader could hardly have overlooked the fact that the metaphor which we are analyzing, as well as other similar metaphors based on coinage, are grounded on a most subtle idea found on the lips of the sages in the Talmud. And this idea is that all creatures, whether intelligent or purely material, were stamped by the signet of God, just as monarchs engraved their images on pieces of silver or gold, giving them thereby proper value and worth. Right. Concerning this, they declared, the seal of the Lord is the truth. Therefore, it was suitable and proper that when our sages spoke about the perception of the essence of beings, whether intelligent or spiritual, and about the definition and quality of the knowledge concerning them and their natures, they use metaphors connected with currency and banking. And that's the end of the Rabbi Ben Amozeg. I'm going to read one more paragraph. Oh, actually, let me look at the footnote 19, Em Lamikra. This basic idea was beautifully expressed by Yehuda Halevi, who wrote, because in every creature's shape there is the seal and stamp of God. Okay. In Hebrew thought, stamp and coin are the highest expressions of authority. Maimonides declared that the legitimacy of a ruler and his government is exclusively determined by his coinage being accepted as legal currency. But if his currency is not accepted, he is to be regarded as a high-handed robber, just as a gang of armed bandits whose laws are not valid. In the same fashion, such a monarch and all his ministers are to be regarded as robbers in every respect. Very interesting. Okay, let's see how much we have left for this particular section. Let's see if we can get to the end. Finally, it is worth remembering that the relation of the unprocessed oraculum in the mind of the speaker to speech is like an unminted coin to a coin. Interesting. Because I guess as long as it's just in the mind of the speaker, but it wasn't expressed in words, so it's a valuable idea, but we have no way of measuring or assessing the thought. We can only assess the words. So the words are like the stamp on the thought. Just as the king's seal takes a very precious metal, but I have no way of measuring, is this really silver? How much silver is it? But when I see the stamp or the seal of the king, now I can assess it. Oh, this is a half a shekel or a full shekel of silver, for example. Interesting. In the words of Philo, for it is indeed a fact that speech, meaning the mind's conceptions, because speech doesn't always fully express the mind's conception, but if it does express properly the mind's conceptions, and wedding the parts of speech to them, mints them like uncoined gold, and gives a stamp of expression to what was unstamped and unexpressed before. So that's Philo. Okay. Let us review the principal points concerning matbea. It is an artificially established standard used as a criterion or measure. Its value is purely semiological, not material, in the sense that what gives the coin value, of course, the coin has intrinsic value in the metal that it's made of, but it doesn't have to be like that. It could be like the US dollar, which doesn't have actual substance to it, right? But it has the stamp, the seal of the Federal Reserve or the US Treasury. So it's semiological. The symbol of the U.S. Treasury is what gives the dollar its value. Therefore, like coinage, it admits of variance and fluctuations. Because any sign can be, right, any sign relative to other signs, right? It's big. That's the word big, it's big. It's giant, right? So big relative to giant, so, right, it's not so big, right? Humongous, right? So, right, so the value of the dollar, so the dollar now under Donald Trump, God willing, will go up. So the point is that this fluctuation, because this is Trump's dollar as opposed to Biden's dollar, which wasn't necessarily the strongest currency in the world. Right, so man who bears the stamp of the Lord is a living testimony that God's matbah does not result in uniformity. We have shown that the Hebrews conceived of nature as the writing of the Lord, that is, as a semiological system. From this point of view, creation is merely a different semiological system from the Torah, serving to express the book. So it's almost like the oraculum in God's mind. Even to say God's mind, it seems almost sacrilegious, right? Because there is God, there is no God's mind, but I'm just saying it because Dibera Torah K'lshon Bnei Adam. But the point is, the oraculum in God's mind, if we can say that, is can be expressed as the Torah, or it can be expressed as the cosmos. Thus, so that's Maaseh Bereshit, right? Thus, whereas metaphysical theology posits that God is a fundamentally illiterate, things are, right? God isn't speaking, but things are, but they cannot possibly signify, right? In metaphysical reality, things just exist to be or not to be, but there's no meaning to the arrangement of the stars and the arrangement of the galaxies and the different components and elements of the cosmos and the subatomic world. But for literal theology, or the theology of the book, where you say that the cosmos is a reflection of God's, or the oraculum in God's mind, and it's expressed as a cosmos or expressed as the book, the Torah, the cosmos is a successive manifestation of the writings of the Lord. And that's the end of section entitled Cosmology and the Torah Semiological Systems. After this, we have authentication of tradition, and I believe and transmission. And we're almost done with the book, which is rather remarkable.